How's it going, beautiful people? Welcome back to another episode of SOTI TV, your dive into trends, innovation, and technology. I'm your host, Mario, and with my co-host, Mikhail.
Thanks so much, Mario. Excited to be back here for another episode of SOTI TV. And today we'll be diving behind the scenes of what's happening in a lot of organizations and how they're starting to embrace autonomous device management. And for that, we have a very special guest joining us today, none other than the Senior VP of Product Strategy here at SOTI, Shash.
How's it going, guys?
Good.
Great to be here. Very excited.
Yeah, all this too. So, Shash, I know you're at the forefront of so many innovations that are happening at SOTI. You're on the road, speaking with customers, hot off NRF. Lots to talk about today.
Yeah, lots to talk about.
And there is.
Device management, right?
Tons to talk about. But just to kind of get the ball rolling here, I got a little bit of a fun game we're going to play together. Okay, you guys ready?
You ready?
And I call that rapid fire questions. Awesome. So I'll explain you guys the rules. Shash will start with you first, then Mikhail and myself.
All right.
It's either one or the other. That's it. Trying to keep it short and simple, and we'll get right to it. You guys ready?
Ready.
So let's start off with the first one. Emails or meetings?
Meetings. Emails.
Emails. Next one, electric or gas?
100% electric.
Gas.
Going electric.
Oh, yeah.
This is a little bit of a tough one. Morning, evening productivity.
Ooh, evening productivities for me.
I'm not a morning person, so I'm 100% going evening.
Evening, I can't even wake up some mornings. Next one, NVIDIA or Tesla?
Ooh, I own both.
Good choices.
Okay, I'm going to go Tesla.
Ooh. I'm going to go NVIDIA. I've been hearing a lot of hype.
Same. That's exactly the way I'm going. NVIDIA for sure. Okay, the last one, probably the hardest one. Smartwatch or traditional watch?
Oh, okay. I have to go with smartwatch. I love my stars.
All right. Listen, I love my smartwatch, but I'm going traditional.
I guess I'm not wearing one, but traditional at the end of the day. Traditional all the way. So there you go. A little bit of a fun game to play. Kick it off a little bit, and it's good feelings through it.
Love that. So listen, let's dive right into it. We're hearing all these things about autonomous device management, how the ecosystem continues to advance.
Right.
So I got to tell you, with all these new trajectories forward, is EMM a thing of the past?
Absolutely not. EMM is definitely not a thing of the past, but I think EMM has evolved into something a little bit more, right? And maybe traditional EMM has always been kind of manage your device, configure it, deploy security settings. But I would say that where SOTI's evolving to is what we call kind of the idea of mobile workforce.
Yeah, we've been hearing that term quite a bit.
Yeah, and so what we want to do is we kind of want to change the way we're thinking about enterprise mobility management, looking at more of the workforce themselves. What are the users doing with the devices, and how can we make that more efficient and more automated? Those kind of.
And I mean, if we can expand a little bit on there, I know it's a term we've been using quite a bit around mobile workforce management, but just for all of our viewers out there, what does that really mean?
Yeah. Okay. So I think if we talk about maybe the SOTI One platform, what we're talking about is we've got, say, Mobi Control, which is our device management solution. And of course, it can manage Android, iOS, Windows, Linux, Mac OS, Chrome OS, all the different operating systems, right? As we start uncovering more and more an understanding about the operations of use, we look at a tool like Excite. And what that does is it goes into advanced diagnostics. So what do we mean by that? It means let's not just remote into a device, but let's see how we can troubleshoot even faster, collect more information from the device, like grab log files automatically so that users don't have to provide any type of touch experience. We could all do it remotely.
Yeah.
It's about drawing on the screen, chatting, live support with that user, having the video two-way interaction. That's advanced diagnostics. Then there's operational intelligence, which is kind of getting into the operations of data usage, network usage.
So what's really happening every single day? We give them the devices. How are they using them?
Exactly. So understanding the application usage. Exactly. That's one area. And then it's, of course, real-time operations, understanding what's happening out in my field. out in the stores, what's happening in real time now. So that's something that we call live view. So this is all part of Excite.
And Shash, well, talking about live view, I also think it's really interesting because you talked about real time.
Yeah.
But one of the other key aspects of live view that we've been getting a lot of feedback on is also tying enterprise level data and APIs directly into our console. So not only are you looking at really device data, you're now looking a lot more at organizational data. So
You're right. Yes. All of the business applications now, we can actually extract that data and show it to you as part of live view, which is really cool because now I can correlate device data with business data.
Right.
And I can kind of now tell a story of what's happening in real time. And this would hopefully allow me to understand my operations even better and be able to make changes immediately as well.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. And I mean, talking about apps, I know one of your favorite products, Sony Snap. That's a big part of workforce management. Where would it be without all the apps?
You're absolutely right. And today there's a lot of organizations that are using a lot of manual processes, paper-based processes. So how do we automate those? How do we maybe integrate with different systems to perform actions that would otherwise be very manual? Maybe I'm copying and pasting data from one system to another. How do I automate that? So we have a lot of customers that are even leveraging and building little mini versions of
Shot Mini.
Yeah. And so this is kind of fun because now they can perform actions without having to call the IT department and performing basic actions. That's a little bit of Snap. Then as we kind of evolve around the circle, we talk about printer management.
Yeah, right.
And so customers love the idea of that and want to address the fact that they know how to manage a mobile device and they want to manage a printer almost in the exact same way. But obviously it's a printer. What are the challenges there? It's around, firmware upgrades, Wi-Fi security, having to remotely troubleshoot again, but rather than physically going to the printer or shipping the printer back, we can try to eliminate those types of costs. So this is all part of the workforce management. And then of course we've got identity, which is our single sign-on, multi-factor identity capabilities, so that users don't have to worry about the idea of remembering different
How to bring it all together. How do you get access to the platform and to all these different capabilities based on role, based on alignment, which I think is really key these days, right?
Yeah, you're right. Ensuring the right people have the right access to the right devices and technology at the right time.
And, it's really interesting because you touched on it, but we really are now starting to see a much deeper tech stack. So I know you guys been out on the road for quite some time. You're seeing how these organizations are adapting new pieces of technology. But to me, there's just so many devices that an employee can be enabled with on a day-to-day basis. And I know for our viewers out there, we wanted to kind of show them an idea about what some of these devices might look like. You've got your AR headsets, you got your watches, your printers, your point of sale, your tablets. I mean, you guys have seen it firsthand. So what do you really see around the tech stack?
I think what I'm really seeing now is a doubling down on the amount of devices that you see inside of organizations today, right? And you see a lot of it in warehouse and retail storefront, DC, even a little bit of T&L as well, where you're seeing somebody with a mobile printer that's attached to their waist, plus a ring scanner or a mobile POS machine, while they also have at the same time a watch that goes with it, right? So you're not kind of stuck with only one piece of technology. You have multiple facets to be able to do multiple jobs at any given time, right? Whether that be scanning a box and getting a label and print it on there, or maybe you're just working with a small device at some trade show, right?
What was that joke back in the day? That $1 Million Man, the bionic man, we can build him.
That's just pretty much nonstop, right?
Yes.
And I mean, Shash, with all your visits, how are you really seeing these new technologies come together? Because I think, anyone can adopt anything, but it's really how it comes together that makes the difference for these organizations.
Yeah, we're seeing devices that are being used, as Mario kind of mentioned, like they're smaller and smaller devices, Bluetooth connected, peripherals that are connected to the system as well. They all need some type of security. They all need management. They all want visibility. How much these devices are being used, utilization is becoming extremely important. Where can I, if I've got 50% utilization in one store, how do I understand that utilization in another store? And maybe I don't need to purchase double the amount of devices or batteries or anything like that. I can just kind of understand because I have visibility into all of these technologies.
Yeah, and I think the one interesting to call out, like we talked about the SOTI One platform, but now we see a part of these devices will be managed in Mobi Control, while the likes of the printers will be managed in Connect. But it's all under that singular platform, which I think really drives a lot of streamlined efficiency when we talk about management.
Right.
Which segues me perfectly into our next part, autonomous device management. We've heard the term.
Yeah.
You've been hearing about capabilities,
Yeah.
but what does it really mean? Like, what does it really mean today? And I think when we look at the evolution of mobility management, this is really where we are today. It's this new cusp of autonomous device management. And, we talked a little bit about the evolution of EMM in episode 1,
Right.
how we went from, the early MDM days to bringing more policies, different form factors, tying in content. But now I think we're at this cusp of autonomous device management. So what does this mean to you guys?
Want to shoot?
I'll start. Yeah, sure. So I think, are we at full autonomous device management? No, I don't think so. But I think where we're going is definitely towards that. So if we talk about kind of what does autonomy mean, it's about automation.
Yeah.
It's about maybe predictive maintenance.
Yeah.
We look at kind of the overall life cycle management. Can we make enrollment easier? Can we make maintenance easier, upgrading easier? So how do we update without user interaction, for example? So in the past, it would be, I have to have the user touch the device. I have to physically touch the device.
Or I have to assign it to a user through IT. I even saw people have to manually assign devices before they even go out of the workshop.
Yeah, exactly. And so now what we are doing with autonomy is we've got a bunch of different things. So for example, SOTI, we've got firmware upgrade policies that you can set up so that you can even schedule when you want your updates to happen. So you don't really have to have that user physically there. It can all be a touchless experience. You can schedule things to happen automatically. We have scripts that allow you to run in the background to say, okay, is the user using the device? Is it at the right time? Is it at the right location? So we have those checks and balances to help with autonomy. From an X-Site perspective, we've got a lot around things like a watch list, right? So a watch list can allow you to watch what are the things that are important. Is it, the battery going below a certain amount? Is it the storage might run out? So rather than a user calling in, it's the idea that I know what are the things that users might call in about. Maybe I should I can be a bit more proactive by creating that type of watch.
And I think, like to me, like in Mario, you've been talking to so many customers about this whole concept of monitoring and diagnostics. It's not just about getting a device out there and waiting for it to come back with issues or maybe push an app update. Now organizations are truly monitoring and understanding what's happening out in the field. And I think that's another big facet of autonomous device management is monitoring, reporting, and diagnosing things.
That's agreed.
Potentially even before they come up.
Yeah, I see a lot of it like systematic issues that you see with inside of an environment, right? Let's say, for example, we talk about all the time, RAM or CPU starts to really spike and it sits there for 15, 20 minutes and finally drops off. Most organizations today don't know why. And what they're,
he's not going to report it.
No, never. They're just going to either power or reset the device and then they move on with their day.
Goes away.
Yeah,
correct. So how do we resolve those problems? If the end user doesn't report it, we're not going to get visibility into it. And when an end user ends up reporting it, it's already way too late. That means that they've dealt with it not once, not twice. We're talking 6, 7, 8 times.
And they are truly down at that point when they typically report these issues, right?
Exactly.
It's most frustrated when they call in.
Exactly.
I would agree with that. They're the most frustrated by the time they're already called in, and your end user is your customer, right? So a lot of what I'm seeing, and back to your initial question was, is autonomous, where are we with autonomous device management, right? I think that we're on the cusp of being able to get there, but we're really heavily focused on machine learning, right? Where we're able to get or help our customers get data to say, this doesn't make sense or this isn't right. And they're able to make a decision using a lot of the background processes that we have and automate something. Like, let's say, for example, let's go back to what we were talking about before. CPU is too high. The random access memory is too high and it's staying there. Maybe we need to automatically send a script to wipe app cache as an example, reboot the device, send a ticket to support to let them know this has happened again. And when we get that information, now we're no longer having to sit there and stare at a screen and try to get an answer. We're now able to use our thought processes or triggers to be able to identify problems that we should be looking at versus go look for problems, right?
Yeah, I think one of the best examples is battery.
Yeah.
And being able to understand battery maintenance.
Yeah.
I was wondering if we can.
Yeah. And we definitely want to bring that up.
Yeah.
Show our viewers what it is.
Yeah.
I think one of the key areas as well is that we're going to just take a look at right now, but this is really getting to self-healing and predictive maintenance,
Right.
which Mario touched on earlier is machine learning. So I think we're at this cusp of ingesting all this information, needing to learn from existing information, and then being able to automatically take action on. And I think we talked about the smart battery piece. I think for us is something that is quite extensive. So let's bring our demo system up on here. And Shash, I think this will really give our viewers a good understanding. And again, this is just one part of what our system's able to offer.
Right.
But I think it's going to give them a good overview of life cycle management, self-prediction, as well as really automation that we can take from here.
Okay, so why don't I show you guys a little bit of the battery inventory management that we have. So this is part of Excite. And what we're seeing here is the battery inventory. So what we're seeing here is the new, the active, the inactive, and decommissioned batteries. So in this case, I have a total of like 195 different batteries. You'll see a nice little chart here that gives me a visual understanding of the quantity of each one of them. So here I have so many new batteries. New batteries are ones that have never been in touch. They're still kind of ordered. They're in the package. Active ones are actively inside a device. The inactive ones have been taken out. Maybe they're put on a shelf somewhere. Charger, exactly. And then decommissioned are the ones that I want to replace. Now, if I kind of scroll down a little bit, by the way, guys, I love this SOTI TV. It's really cool. But if I scroll down, I can see the distribution of my devices. So here I've got so many Zebra and Honeywell batteries for the different models. And then if I keep going down, this is where I can actually identify the exact quantities of every single type, inactive, active batteries, and of course the decommissioned ones. So those are the ones that I'd want to replace so that I don't get any more future calls about batteries not lasting a full shift. Now, my favorite part of this is actually pretty cool, which is let's go into the, not all use, but let's go to the in-use batteries. And so here you're seeing an amazing chart that gives me that historical trend that Mikhail talked about. He said that we can start using machine learning. So what we're leveraging is behind the scenes, we're leveraging our prediction engine to look at past behavior. And we can go back even 12 months of time, understand the battery usage and how many charge cycles it has, the temperature of it, all those types of things that we're gathering statistics on. And then you kind of see the current one, and the blue area is what we call the prediction engine. So you'll notice that there's a bit of a pattern where we're predicting the green ones, green meaning good, yellow meaning average, red meaning the bad ones that have a poor capacity now. You'll notice that they kind of degrade over time. And so here, for example, I've got about 17, then it grows to 20, and then it grows to 22. And what you're noticing is that as I tap on the specific area, now I know that there's going to be 22 bad batteries. Now, great, I know that there's going to be 22, but which ones are they?
What do I do with that information?
Yeah, what am I going to do with the 22? So for that, if I scroll down a little bit more, I'll get a little bit more information about those 22 batteries. So for example, I will know the age of the batteries because we're monitoring the inventory of it coming in. And so maybe I'm under warranty. So this would allow me to replace those particular batteries. And so that's pretty cool that I have that. But more importantly, as we said, which batteries are they? So here's the exact, battery manufacturer, the battery ID. So we're extracting all this information from the actual batteries. And now I tap on an individual battery. What you're going to see is the history. Where was that battery over the last, say, 12 months or even longer data? So I can say, okay, from here, it was in this particular device. In this case, it's Andrew Holland. So I want to look and say, okay, historically, it was in Andrew's device and it went to Myra. So this also helps me understand whether batteries are being hoarded or not.
Yep.
Right? And the green here, this indicates that it's currently in use. So now I know exactly where that battery is. And if I wanted to go one step further, I can look at things like the battery spotlight view. So I just tap on that battery, and what we'll see is we'll see a historical view of that individual battery. How is its capacity over time? How is its health? The total number of cycles. So I've got that full understanding of that exact battery. I can even tap and compare different batteries right from here. So I can see how they're being used. Was there a spike for some reason? Maybe it was a cyclical seasonal issue. Well, let's say things. So this is kind of a little bit of the battery dashboard.
And I think the one thing to call out as well is, right, these are smart batteries. So a lot of the data that we're getting from them is really able to help us provide this level of analytics, right? So whether the battery's been used in one device or 10, we always follow the battery, which I think is really interesting in this industry because, some of the other solutions out there just look at the information about that particular battery in that device at that point in time.
Right.
We truly manage the life cycle of the battery from the time you purchase it to the time you replace it. We know everything that happens in between, which I think is really key for these organizations.
And I think it's really important for our viewers to understand that there are many different ways that a battery consumption happens, right? And if we really look at it, it's in many different facets, which is the end users charging the devices as anticipated.
Yeah.
It's whether the equipment manufacturer shipped out a good battery. It's the operating system manufacturer with all their new updates. What's the performance impact on that? The applications, as you upgrade your applications, as they change, as they evolve and become stronger, they require more resources. And you need to look into those things as well. And last but not least is also the networks that you're attached to. If you're constantly transmitting data over and over and over again, it is going to impact your overall performance of that battery health. So it's not just the battery and whether or not it's going to last. It's also what's impacting it from our predictive analytics. And that's something I think our viewers should really look at.
And I mean, we really dove into this in episode 1 as well. So for all our viewers out there, if you haven't had a chance to check it out, go see episode 1 where we really dive into this with Carl. And he helps organizations understand how these modern management tool sets are really going to drive that needed visibility and really focus in on key areas of your organization. And, we've been talking about AI, we've been talking about machine learning, we've been talking about automation, which I got to say really segues into our next point is integrating AI directly into the device. So we've seen a lot of announcements in regards to Gemini being made available for Android. I think an announcement went out last week, Gemini 2.0, going into AI now. They use Gemini XR. Samsung with Galaxy AI. We got Copilot enabled PC Plus, I think they're calling them, from Microsoft. Apple Intelligence, right? So, obviously we see these things happening in the industry, but to me, it's really interesting because we're almost taking the data sets of taking information from the devices and manipulating that data set to now a lot of that happening right on the device with these new integrated chipsets. Like I was so excited for Apple Intelligence for my phone. And then they're like, well, no, you need the 16 Pro. Like I'm one version behind. They're like, can't take advantage of it. Right. So I definitely want to dive into it, but it's interesting because it is a whole new generation of devices. So what do you guys see? What are you hearing about these things?
It's interesting because it's going to be really a mixed bag because what we see a lot, even in retail and at least in distribution companies today, the technology, it really depends on where you are with your device life cycle, right? It is extremely hard pressed, especially when maybe you did a device life cycle change last year, to go ahead and adopt these new technologies because you just bought hardware last year. And hardware evolves so rapidly, especially when you take into consideration artificial intelligence that matches with it, right? But we are seeing companies today that are actively taking on these new digital trends. In fact, Shash, you had an opportunity to work with one of our largest customers, TSC, to actually have a look at it, right? So I know that we have a use case video that we have that actually shows you going back and forth at that organization today, looking at how they're adopting technology, how AI impacts their business. Talk to us a little bit about it. What did you see at that use case?
Yeah, this is a really fun kind of opportunity to learn about exactly where these devices are being used, where is AI being incorporated. So at Tractor Supply Company, we actually had these Honeywell devices, and they had implemented, OpenAI behind the scenes, ChatGPT type capabilities. And what they did was they trained the models on all of their inventory so that you could go in and ask anything on that mobile device about any of the products, but also more importantly about any of the locations of where those orders were. And so now, for example, this user could be using this device and asking natural language questions like, hey, do we have any of this inventory of this particular, propane gas in the back? And you can ask a natural language question like that and get a nice natural language response of, yes, it is here. Or you can ask a question about a product and it will leverage the product specifications so that you don't have to go to the back and find out anything about it. You essentially, what I loved about this example is that the store associate is just as knowledgeable as any other store associate, regardless of whether you've been there for 2 days or 2 years or 10 years.
That's huge.
It's pretty cool. The learning capacity and the confidence level of a store associate has gotten that much better.
And I mean, you talk about seasonal workers, right? I mean, you've chatted about quite a bit in retail. You know, I come in there for the Christmas season or the garden season. I'm there for a few months. I'm not going to know the products in and out right out of the gate. But if I need to know, hey, what kind of Christmas tree is this? Yeah, it's perfect, I think, right?
Yeah.
Time to life, your onboarding for employees, I think that's where you're going to see so much of the ROI on these investments.
Yes. And the whole cool thing is I'm no longer kind of asking a question and the store associate goes to the back. And then you never hear about that store associate again.
They don't come back.
Yeah. They don't come back.
The back of the warehouse still goes.
That's right.
I find it interesting that now with these language models, even with the use case that you described, is that now I can ask it questions like, I'm looking for, let's stick with a hardware store, right? I want to find this bag of concrete. It was a white bag. It weighed this much. And I can't remember the name of the company that sells it, but I need it specifically for lining the bottom of my shower pan, right? As an example. Funny story, I ended up doing this not too recently. So now I can look that up and it's like, I forgot what it was. I don't have the receipt anymore. I can't find it. But now I can use a language model to look up all the different concrete manufacturers that exist specifically at Tractor Supply. And that's super important for end users, especially like you said, seasonal. I don't know what the name of that concrete brand is. I barely know where the concrete is, right? So now we can actually help these users quickly adopt this technology and get it out the door, right?
Yeah. I something that just keeps kicking around in my mind is we talked about the power of these devices. We've touched on a few use cases. Do we believe that this is going to drive a wave of enterprise device refreshes? And I know you've touched to say, well, I just bought my hardware maybe a year ago. And we look at mission critical devices and it's not your consumer life cycle. Some of the devices, we talked about Windows Mobile in episode 1. We're still seeing them 20 years later. So obviously, the mission critical devices are out there for longer. But what do you think is going to be that driver that's actually going to facilitate that wave of enterprise hardware refreshes that are focused on taking advantage of AI technology?
Do you want to shoot first?
Sure, I'll shoot first. I think that it's like Mario said, there has to be a business problem that we're trying to solve. Maybe it's around operational issues. Maybe there's some problem that I need to solve. So one of the things that we saw is how do you become more efficient in general? And if AI can help you become more efficient, then you may say, okay, this is actually going to save us time. So one example that I started working on with some of our hardware manufacturers is AI where they're leveraging the camera. Okay. So the cameras are obviously images. I can record videos. But now let's imagine I am scanning a particular item that has a barcode.
Yeah. Right.
So typically I'd have to make sure it's at a specific angle or I can scan it from a distance.
Right.
But
or you got it set on the right setting of the scanner to scan that particular barcode.
Exactly. You're right. There's different barcodes.
Yeah, a barcode scan.
Yeah, you're right. So now what I can do is we're actually working with a few manufacturers where you can train the image. So imagine it's this mug here. Mm-hmm. I can now train I can just upload a few pictures of this image and I no longer have to scan it at a specific angle. I can just put my camera over this and it will tell me the exact inventory, the price, all of that information will be looked up automatically. And what's cool about this is that it works offline as well. So I can kind of store that small language model onto the device and it's got its own intelligence.
That's because of the AI chipset, I would assume.
Exactly. You're right. And so that could be a motivation for me wanting to kind of go into and explore the latest and greatest hardware. It might be worth it because if I can save time by just putting a camera over an entire shelf and telling me the inventory, everything about that, and augment it on the screen, that might be a huge cost savings for that organization that might be doing inventory management or looking up information.
And I mean, I got to tell you, the other thing I've been hearing recently is organizations are actually now testing consumer grade devices with these, AI-based chipsets to now potentially replace the more ruggedized type of barcode scanner for certain use cases.
Right.
But I think that's really interesting because I think you're seeing that evolution of technology to go side by side with the evolution of the AI chips, which can now take on a multitude of different use cases.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Even coming back from some of the trade shows that we were at recently, like NRF, we're hearing this boom of AI. If you go to any other booth, there's conversations nonstop about AI, machine learning, predictive analytics, and so on and so forth. So it's definitely starting to take a charge. Do I personally think that we're there yet to force a device refresh, especially within mission? Let's talk specifically mission critical mobility. Not so much yet. I'm still waiting for personally myself to see a lot more drive towards AI. But I do think within the next at least 2 to 3 years, personally myself, it will force that challenge, right? And we are seeing the adoption heavily at these trade shows. And it is nonstop. It is on everybody's mind. AI this, AI that. You and I had the conversation earlier this week about it. It is going to get there, just not maybe this year or next year, but in the next, let's say 2 to 3, I definitely see it pushing forward.
But I just want to add that just kind of like a vehicle, like a Tesla, for example, that model, the AI gets smarter and smarter as the device, as the age kind of continues on. So the cool thing about this type of hardware is that it gets better and better as more time passes versus the devices that, okay, yeah, you update the operating system. But in this case with AI, it's cool that to see a device learning and getting even smarter than before.
So potentially extending those device refresh cycles, maybe that's part of your ROI.
Yeah, you gotta see it. You just have to see it from that lens, right? If you're very focused on the total cost of ownership, like your TOC, if that's all you see, you don't see the value. That's right. If you don't see the value, you're not going to adopt. But for those organizations that do not adopt trends, looking at technology, looking at innovation, they're the ones that do fall behind. And we've seen that time and time again across many organizations for as long as I.
That's what they say in the stock market. If you're hearing about the stock, it's probably too late to buy.
That's true. 100%.
Well, listen, I think this is a natural segue also into our next area where, I know it was a bit of a controversial subject on there, but, humans with versus without AI. And I always hear, are humans going to be replaced by robots, right? Like saw the Boston Dynamics dancing robots. You got the inspection dog, Optimus from Tesla. So you're obviously seeing these really life-like, I would say, humanoids, I guess, maybe the category that they're putting them on there. But, or I always hear about, are we going to be replaced? Is AI taking my job? Are robots going to take my job? And what do you guys think? Like, is it so far fetched, or where are we today?
It's interesting. I think I'll take a swing at it first here. I don't think that AI in general or AI robots in general are going to replace every single job out there. I think that there is a level of job market where repetitive tasks that you can complete over and over and over again can be automated. And you'll see that a lot in automotive, for example. You kind of see it today with a giant crane arm and it's propping things down and so on and so forth, or even in warehousing. And I'll show a little bit later, and I'll let Shash go first. But I don't think it's ever going to completely replace people. You still need that personal touch. At the end of the day, I think what we're going to see is arming people with AI, giving people the opportunity to grow and learn with it is going to be substantially more beneficial than completely replacing people. Are there jobs out there? Yes. Do I think it's every job? No. And back to you, Shash. What do you think?
I have to agree with Mario. Yeah. I think that a lot of repetitive tasks have the potential to be replaced. But to your earlier question, I think humans with AI will be replacing humans that are not using AI at all.
Yeah.
I see that a lot in terms of, even at SOTI, we talk about, we implemented kind of a GPT type interface. Our
SOTI GPT?
Yeah. And so this is helping us out because for example, our marketing team or our sales team, they can ask questions about our own products, about our own kind of PDFs.
Right.
You can kind of ask questions in a natural language. And we've leveraged something called RAG, which is Retrieval Augmentation Generation.
Okay.
This is some technology that allows you to store internal data and ask questions about that internal data, and then use your natural voice and natural.
So it's a validated data source almost that you're getting. It's coming from a.
Yeah, it's not publicly available information, but it could be data that's coming from SharePoint or Salesforce or Jira.
Especially roadmap decks, confidential info that they need, not open to the wide market.
Yeah, so you can index all your data from that and then use that. So that's kind of an example of where we're using it. People that are not using that might be a little bit slower in terms of getting and extracting data.
Right.
What I find interesting is those that are using it when they start adopting AI, they're leveraging it kind of like a search, like a Google search, versus you can actually just go and ask this question that, from the content that you're looking for, right? Why is X site better? I need this type of battle card, this kind of questions.
Right.
You can ask those questions and just ask, not just look for the document, but ask the question.
More things around the document. Things like
the
that.
content inside.
I got to tell you, Shash, because me and you've been working on SOTI GPT for a little bit. And, I love how you showcased how it's empowered to the employee.
Yeah.
But the other thing me and you chatted about was actually, we also know what questions are being asked.
Right.
And what response was provided.
Oh, yeah.
Now that we know that, hey, so many people are asking this question in one way, shape, or form, maybe that's a training session.
Yeah.
Maybe that's something you have to create content for to address that need in a particular department and team. So it's also giving us internally so much information about, hey, what are people asking where we would have never had a general source for that, or we have to go talk to them, be like, hey, what are you struggling with lately?
Yeah.
So I think internally for organizations, it also gives them so much visibility by adopting these tools to find areas of efficiency or gaps that they otherwise might have to spend months of searching with people and receiving their biased answers, right? So everyone's got an opinion.
So I got a cool example for you. So I went out on the road for a bit, and I want to show you guys a really cool video of where we can show you AI in the warehouse today operating alongside an individual, right? So this is what I think of the wave of the future, is where you have these technologies where automated robots are able to help sort and pick, pack, and move back and forth and allow our end users to focus on what matters the most, their customer, right? And you can see here, for example, even this gentleman here is sorting and picking out of bins, and those bins are getting put right back in. And you're just centralized where you're able to move parts at an alarming rate. And a lot of it's happening in a warehouse today, right? So when we talked about adopting artificial intelligence or adopting machine learning or robotics even to benefit the person at the other end, this is great, because before you would have to have hundreds of people that are doing the same manual labor. Now what you can do is you can work with the same subset of people, but now it's not as strenuous on the body. You're not have to climb up scaffolds and put yourself a little bit at risk, right? And you have something beside you that's following. Little Timmy the robot is, I'm going ahead and moving all of my packages towards our distribution, and I can just have it drop it off, and there's no longer this level of stress, right? And I think that's really important to see, is that AI can work alongside people. You just need to know how to use it, right?
Yeah, and I mean, you know what, I gotta tell you, and I think it's also an interesting point, right? Because I know, Shash, you're very much into learning about AI. I know you took a course recently that helped you dive into it, prompt engineering. I'm hearing that coming from all angles. And it's really interesting because it really makes my mind go to a very key place. There's people out there that are always for learning. They're always going to want to learn about new things. But the division that I want to look at is, what would be the onus on organizations to make sure that they're empowering their employees with the knowledge of these new technologies versus the onus on the individual to empower themselves to stay relevant? Like, where are you guys at on that thought trade? Do you think organizations have to bear it all? Or do you think individuals have to take on some of that learning themselves as any other career progression?
Interesting question. Maybe I'll talk from an employee perspective, and you want to do from a leadership perspective.
Yeah.
I think that it's really important to understand that AI is here to stay, and it's going to push the market in a very different mannerism. For you not to want to educate yourself, especially with us working in technology, let's say even talking about software or even technology in our sector, you have to embrace these things, because technology is ever changing. The running joke is, actually it's not a joke, but running joke is every 6 months chipsets are double in size, or reduce in size, but double in the capacity, right? Same thing's going to happen with AI. So if you don't take the time to learn how to better adopt it, how to get it to help you assist your day better, right? Whether it be organizing your calendar, having to look, sifting through emails, having it answer some questions like our own internal GPT does to find relevant information, you will get left behind, because they're going to be the younger generation that are stepping in. They're already playing with these tools today. So
but it's baseline for them, right? Like, they don't know any better. I always say, it's like, were you born pre or post iPhone? Like, that's the big division, right? Like, you show people pictures of a floppy disk, that's the save icon. You're like, you don't even know what was happening before.
Yeah. You ever ask? I saw the social experiment. It was actually quite funny. They're like, hey, show me what you do when you take a phone call. So the older generation would go,
I saw this.
and then the younger generation would go like this. And I'm like, and they're like, what is this? What is this?
What are you picking up?
Yeah, you're picking up your thumb, and you're like
what do you hold?
It's funny to see it that way because you see that evolution of how the trend happens. And they're like, yo, call me. And I'm like, but when we were younger, that wasn't a thing. We had a piece to your ear and then one to your mouth. So
But even the flip phone, you wouldn't hold a flip phone like this.
it's so interesting watching them.
Good memory.
Right? Yeah, I like to think I have a good memory.
So, yeah, so I think from a company organizational perspective, I think we do have to enable any of our employees and staff to be able to want to use and try these tools out. It's kind of like, when the internet came or when Google came and you want to leverage searching, but with AI, there's so many advances. It's changing on a daily basis. It's not even double the capacity, but there's already talks around artificial intelligence, artificial general intelligence, super intelligence. It's going beyond and beyond. So you need to make sure you as an individual are keeping up to pace with what's going on in terms of what technology is out there. The organization should embrace kind of offering these types of tools. Like, I want to be able to leverage ChatGPT, and it's freely available. So that's pretty cool. But play around with Gemini. Like you said, every mobile device is going to have some type of AI capabilities already. And so why not let them try to do it with their job? Every job will be affected by AI in the course of the next few years at the very longest time. It's already being affected by so many. And so this is kind of why SOTI also embraced it. We want to take a look at it and understand it and make sure that our teams can leverage it and play around with it. And they're generating so many cool so much cool content. They're asking a lot of questions. We're already saving a huge amount of time. We're already seeing 20, 30% productivity. So I definitely think there should be an AI policy for every organization.
I actually like to double down on that with an AI policy. AI is an extremely powerful tool, and it has tons of benefits for consumers, end users, people that are looking for information. But I do believe there has to be guardrails put on it, right? Like, Mikhail is going to look at me like I'm a little bit crazy, but nobody wants Skynet. Nobody wants a Terminator running around and learning that, humanity is a threat. But in all seriousness, we see it in the news today that AI is being misused in certain mannerisms. And what I would love to see from a lot of organizations out there today, whether it be government officials or not, is putting guardrails on to protect society from things that it shouldn't be able to do, right?
Yeah.
You can go look it up on your own, check it out, but there's things that shouldn't be available to AI. And I truly believe that those guardrails do need to be put on.
Not only guardrails, I think there's obviously, like all tech, it
tech in general, yeah.
They can hallucinate and it can give you the wrong answers.
Yep.
So it is up to you to obviously prompt it correctly, but also make sure that
you're doing your own sanity, right?
Exactly. Yeah, you got it.
And I mean, honestly, like what I'm hearing you guys say, I'm kind of straddling both camps, right? Like, the way that I see it, I think an organization should always look to empower their employees, but I also look at it the other ways to say, the people that are going to empower themselves, to me, will always be that much ahead, right? Like, you can only give someone the baseline, but we all know that, the people that perform the best do have that thirst for continuously being better, driving more efficiency in their role without being asked to do so. So I definitely think for all individuals out there, empower yourself with AI. Because I think, to me, that really is going to be the next wave of where we're going to see a lot of job enhancement for sure.
Yeah.
We've been talking about all this, and I got to say, like, starting off with mobile workforce management, we talked about all these different use cases, the technology, what we're seeing out in the industry. And I think, to me, with these large data sets and learning from all this, I really do think autonomous device management is in that cusp of where it's looking to support that shift. Like you said, maybe it's not fully there today, but I definitely think the infrastructure and the technology is there to support it. So I think we're going to see some massive growth over the next 2 years to really bring forth that level of automation, right? And I think then we're going to get to autonomy. So I think it's a bit of a walk, crawl, run, I guess, if that's the right acronym for it. But yeah, so I got to tell you, organizations have to be thinking about training their employees. We got to take a look at driving early adoption and early enablement for these platform and tools. You got to stay competitive in this market. And I think the ones that don't are going to get left behind pretty quickly, it sounds like.
I agree with that statement. I think they will be left behind if you don't adopt it quickly and efficiently.
Yeah, I think one thing I just want to mention that the good news is SOTI is adopting AI quite a bit. Our technologies, you'll see with Snap, for example, you can leverage AI to just describe the type of mobile app that you want to build, and it will build it for you. You can upload an image, you can upload a PDF. All of these types of capabilities are there. You'll see in SOTI Mobile Control and Excite, you'll see AI capabilities coming out where you can just ask questions. We'll leverage the online help. We'll leverage your backend system so that you can kind of just ask questions about your own environment. So we're going to incorporate into our technology so that as organizations, as managed service providers, as customers, they can understand and get a really good understanding of what their devices are. So they don't have to navigate so much. They can just use natural language to speak.
Well, I gotta say, Shash, you're getting me excited. We have our global conference coming up. So
What do you think?
then I think this is going to be such a massive discussion point for our customers, our partners, and even for all of our audience out there that want to take in what's happening at the forefront of mobility, understanding where the mobile worker tech stack is going. Join us at SOTI Syncs. I think you're going to find a ton of amazing conversations, technology overviews, and really a lot of a collaborative partner network that are embracing these technologies firsthand.
Yeah, I cannot wait till SOTI Sync.
So right in our own backyard in Montreal. So it's going to be a shorter journey than most.
Yeah.
So I got to say, I'm going to be wrapping it up here. It sounds like we're not at the age of fully autonomous just yet.
Right.
But I think we're getting there. We still need human brains, which I think is pretty good for all of us here. I'm hearing job security, at least for the next little bit. And I got to tell you, I really think it's going to be about driving productivity. I think everything we've talked about today is using that level of automation to drive productivity. And Shash, you alluded to it, embrace AI.
Right.
Don't be scared. Embrace it. See how you can use it. Talk to your peers about it. I think it's going to be a very interesting couple of years.
I agree. I think that the market's going to change and we should embrace it and look forward to it. So Shash, I'd like to thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Thank you guys for having me.
Great having you here, walking through all kinds of different ideas around AI and autonomous device management. It's honestly been a pleasure. We really appreciate you jumping in today for this one.
Thank you guys for having me. I love the SOTI TV. Great job. This is wonderful. I look forward to being on another episode, hopefully.
I love it. I love it. Shash, for our viewers out there, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can get a hold of me on LinkedIn. Would love to chat with anybody.
Appreciate it, Shash. And if you found our content helpful in any meaningful way, do us a favor. Click that subscribe button, smash that like button, leave us a comment, and we'll get back to you. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.